Yeah, baby! Yeah.
Dr. Donald Rawson formed the first University of Saskatchewan wrestling team in 1929. Dr. Rawson, studying biology at the University of Toronto, was a member of their intervarsity team and a welterweight title holder in 1925, 26, and 1927. It wasn't until February 29, 1936, when the first intercollegiate competition between the University of Saskatchewan Huskies and the University of Alberta was held. 4 wrestlers traveled to Edmonton and were victorious in their first ever Assault at Arms. This early event included wrestling, boxing, and fencing. Some outstanding wrestlers at this time were the likes of Lionel Big Train LeBurge, Dan the Man Stan, Lloyd Scar Them Up Skarsgård, Elson Half Nelson Hansen, and Byron Bad Boy Horner. Dr. Rawson coached wrestling at the U of S until 1952, when Howard Nixon took over the program.
Y'all ready for this?
Gaynell McCaw packed a punch. Gaynell, called Wally by his friends, scored a knockout for the University of Saskatchewan boxing team in the light heavyweight division at the annual Optimus card in Saskatoon in 1948. Even making it to the university was a story for McCaw. Raised in Fort Qu'Appelle, he became an RAF pilot in the Second World War, was shot down in Germany, and spent 4 years in prisoner of war camps. While at Stalag 3 near Berlin, McCaw was part of the tunneling done by the Allied prisoners that became known as the Great Escape.
During Nixon's tenure, the program expanded from the Assault of Arms to a straight wrestling program, which evolved into the Western Canadian Intercollegiate Athletic Association Wrestling Championships. The first WCIAA wrestling competition occurred in and around the year 1958. In 1960, Chess Anderson, a young American from Tennessee, took over the wrestling program from Howard Nixon. Chess is somewhat of an enigma, a Renaissance man, if you may. He taught physical education, coached wrestling, and dabbled deeply into the arts. Chess is a noted artist who favors painting local scenery and subjects which will reflect his satisfaction and appreciation of the Saskatchewan landscape. During Chess's time, the inaugural CIAU Wrestling Championships were held in 1969. They have been held every year since and serve as the pinnacle for Canadian University Wrestling. The CIAU changed its name to the present-day acronym CIS in the year 2001. Famous names in the 60s included the brothers Ross and Don Clark, Richard Jack, Clark Bullock, Ken Mariashi, and Barry Moodry. The 1960s also included probably the most decorated Husky wrestler of all time, Gord Garvey. Gord was a CIAU champion for 3 years and represented Canada at the 1968 Olympic Games.
Don Clark of the University of Saskatchewan played the heavy at the 1966 Western Canadian University Wrestling Championships on campus. Clark, who was also a lineman for the Husky football team, won the wrestling heavyweight division. This came at the same time that Ann Davis led the U of S women's basketball team to 4 conference championships. The connection? Don Clark later married Ann Davis.
Chess Anderson continued to coach into the early 70s before Bob Lako signed on as an assistant coach. Lako and Anderson worked together only for a short time before both moving on. The Huskies wrestling program went into a transition period. Numerous people picked up the coaching reins, including the likes of Val Schneider, Earl Fennell, and Jim Aiken. Outstanding wrestlers during that 70s era included Gary Fry, Gil Wist, Tim Molnar, Seth and Brett Adams, John Hambidge, Grant Collins, and Big Bad Bob Gibbons. In 1980, the arrival of Gord Garvey solidified the coaching ranks, bringing back continuity to the Huskie Wrestling program. Gord's coaching career began in 1970 at Lakehead University. From 1973 to 1976, he coached Canada's wrestling teams in the World Cup, the Commonwealth Games, the World Championships, and the 1976 Montreal Olympics. He was named the U of S Coach of the Year in 1985 and 1986. In 1986, Gord was inducted into the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame. His untimely illness and subsequent death led once again to a number of years of instability in the Husky coaching ranks.
Gord Garvey was named Male Athlete of the Year for 4 straight years at the University of Saskatchewan. In 1970, in his final year of competing for the Husky wrestling team, he won every match at Nationals by pin, except the last one, which he won 9-0. There's Gord competing for Canada in the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, then coaching Canada's team at the 1976 Olympics in Montreal.
Jenny and Johnny getting smart, it seems. Make more money on a movie screen. Every little mess needs a...
Outstanding wrestlers during Gord's time included the likes of Terry Johnson, Andre Renier, Kim Kruger, Imran Akhtar, Sean Klotz, Scott Reeves, Shane McDonald, and
Bruce Waldner, who didn't win a match in grade 9 when he started wrestling, won the Canadian University Championship for the Saskatchewan Huskies in 1987 and was named the National Wrestler of the Year. Waldner had his jaw broken in competition at the 1983 Canada Winter Games when he was in grade 12. The next year, as a rookie with the Huskies, he was on the team that won its first Canada West University Championship.
6, 7, 8, and 9 is 10. Send Al Gunn to see the doctor. Hey, what planet are we on? Up goes the world. Every time I wonder where the world went wrong.
Remember those walls are built? Well, baby, they're tumbling down. They didn't even put up a fight. They didn't even make a sound. It's like I've been awakened. Every rule I had to break in. It's the risk that I'm taking. I am never gonna shut you out. Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded.
coaches like Rob Moore, Tony Byrne, Shane Bradley, and Dan McGee did their best to maintain Husky wrestling throughout the late 80s and early 90s. These were some very difficult economic times. The threat of shutting down wrestling as a Huskie sport was continually on the minds of many coaches and administrators involved with the program. Fortunately, a strong high school program continually introduced Saskatchewan's young athletes to the sport of wrestling, and as a result, the Huskies celebrated much success. Huskie Athletics earned Canada West men's wrestling titles in 1981-82, 82-83, 83-84, and 85-86.
I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, and don't it feel good? All right now. I can feel oh yeah. I can feel
In 1996, the Huskie Wrestling program hired a little dynamo from Winnipeg via Thunder Bay, Todd Hines. Todd rejuvenated the program with an increase in numbers, profile, and performance.
Good night, I feel it. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. I feel it. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be.
Todd's tenure as head coach would mark the beginning of a new era, the introduction of women's wrestling as a university sport. Melissa Drotar and Priscilla Clayton were the first women to compete for the Huskie Wrestling team. Todd played a huge role in coaching Huskie wrestler Viola Yannick to a third-place finish in the World Championships and a fifth-place finish in the 2004 Olympic Games. Huskie wrestlers like Megan Bidens and Jill Gillespie have been forces to reckon with over the years. In 2008-2009, the women's wrestling team finished third in the CIS Championships, their best placing ever since women's wrestling was introduced to the CIS in 1999.
Your lipstick stains on the front lobe of my left side brains. I knew I wouldn't forget you, and so I went and let you blow my mind. Your sweet moonbeam, the smell of you in every single dream I dream. I knew when we collided
defenders of life.
Under Todd's tutelage, the Huskie men's team challenged for a national team title in 2007. They lost by only 1 point. Wrestlers of note from Todd's era were Travis Drew, Mickey and Danny Jutras, Colin Wist, Jeff Adamson, Riley Walker, Keith Fulkerson, and Ryan Murfield. In 2011, Daniel Oliver made Huskie Athletics history, winning his 5th straight Canada West gold medal. He also won 5 medals at the CIS level. Huskie wrestlers have gone on to distinguish themselves in many facets of society. Many have given back to the program by coming back to help coach at all levels, from the Pups program to the Huskie program. Some have gone on to become wrestling officials, and still others continue to do their part by parenting future Huskie wrestlers.
You're unbelievable. By telling me more about mine, I'm always so concerned with the way you say you always have to stop to think of us. Being one is more than I ever know, but this time I realize I'm gonna shoot through and leave you. The things you say, your purpose just give you away. The things you say, you're unbelievable. Pushing down the reds and bringing out your higher self. Think of the fun time, pushing down the better view instead of bringing the absolutes to what the world and everything you're asked to. Brace yourself with grace and peace. You're unbelievable.